Hello everyone, this is Marceau coming all the way from Paris, France to Japan, Kyoto to explore together this wonderful city and also Japan through creation, through interviews. So we're going to interview people in different fields with a focus on humanity, on creation, on art. So today we're going to start off this very special series with Seiichiro Takeuchi, which is a Japanese architect. So here we go, let's start and let's talk with him. I'm very happy to have you here today. So I have to introduce Seiichiro Takeuchi, which is a Japanese architect. Maybe you can say a word about yourself, just to introduce yourself to the camera.
I'm Seiichiro Takeuchi. I'm an architect, and I'm based in Kyoto, and I engaged in this project for already 2 years.
2 years.
Yes.
Amazing. And so you graduated from Tokyo University, right?
Yes.
And then in 2006, and then after that, you worked for 10 years.
Yes.
For Tadao Ando Architect Associates company. And then after that, you chose to establish your own company in 2016. And until then, you've been doing many projects in Kyoto, in Tokyo, in Japan, and also abroad.
Yes, sometimes abroad.
Okay.
Yes.
I've noticed in Japan, it's not only about architecture. There are many things that are connected together. Like you have design, you have so many. For example, this one very good example that I want to take is when we went to the Takeuchi Gallery.
Yes.
The first reflex I had was it was not only about the artworks. It was about the space. It was about the how you put things and how materials. And the first thing I noticed, I was looking at the ceiling. I was looking not only at the artworks. So it's all about this one word which I really like in English is interconnectedness. Things are all connected together. So architecture somehow in Japan is about having all these things articulated together to make the whole space almost living. And I asked the AI 2 questions. The first one is, what is the most important thing about architecture? And ChatGPT-4 answered me. I asked him to answer in only 3 words.
Okay.
And the ChatGPT answered form, function, and sustainability. And then I asked the same question, but mentioning what is the most important thing about Japanese architecture in 3 words. And he changed to harmony, simplicity, and nature. What do you think about these 2? What's your opinion on that? It's very interesting.
I don't know why ChatGPT answer like that.
Yeah.
But basically, traditionally for architect, the most important 3 things are function.
Function. Okay.
Function. The strength. And beauty.
And beauty. Okay. What would you describe as beauty? There's so many ways of going through beauty. So I'm very curious.
Beauty is a kind of in a meaning it's a matter of art. The concept of beauty is changing in every age. So, and also, for example, the contemporary art is changing the style in every 2 decades or 1 decade.
This is a tricky one. I'm suddenly sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I'm curious because you are doing project. I've seen some. We'll show pictures, but there's a project where you combine old and new, and how because old and new have their own sense of beauty somehow.
Yeah.
How do you kind of bridge these 2 beauty, your 2 different time period? How do you bridge that? I'm very curious. How does it?
I think the beauty is changing, and every age has its own beauty. But I think we have a unchangeable or kind of a core of beauty in human being.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay.
So when we go into the Roman ruins, we can see the beauty of the.
We can feel that core of human sense of beauty inside.
And also, I don't think it's so different from contemporary beauty in a meaning. So I should find the unchangeable and eternal beauty to make a sustainable beauty.
Okay. So do you think like, is this too very? I mean, another question, but you have old and new.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have to have them both like kind of collide, or in another sense try to like find a continuity in between both of them? Because like I'm very intrigued in that in between space. How do you feel in that in between interaction with these two kind of like different center?
Each has its own beauty, so sometimes it's not harmonized with each other. I should find the kind of the common sense of each era.
Okay.
And also, I don't think these two things has a kind of a let's say, two things is connected like this, I think.
Yin yang, okay.
Yeah, yin yang.
So it's not separated.
Not separated, has a has a buffer zone and also black zone and has a white one.
White black balancing. Yeah. There's no like black white. It's always like. Do you find any specific kind of style or a very like specific approach in what you're designing? There's many architects. I've talked to other architects. They have a certain way of doing things, like maybe just certain light, and when you see one or two elements, you already know that's their work.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have this element in your practice?
I'm just finding my style.
Yeah, you're looking for it, exploring.
Yes. And also it's not my. I don't know it's my style but I need to find my own approach to each project. The important is I'm thinking about space and architecture like this. It's not simple and combine the kind of integration of each era and each.
I'm very, very intrigued, and I haven't talked to you about that yet. Is your experience working with Tadao Ando architects, like the company here? How was it? How was your experience? What do you? Many questions you can take your time, but what was the biggest influence on your practice right now? What did you get from that? Do you feel like your vision of architecture changed after working 10 years there?
Before entering Tadao Ando's office, I think his personality is like a very solid, very simple, and don't talk about so much.
Okay.
But his personality is totally different. He can talk everyone and everyone coming together with him. So he is like a kind of a core of a lot of
network,
people.
like a big network, a spider network around him that revolves.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm really inspired by his the personality like that. So I wanted to be like that.
One thing that we had in mind when we think of Ando Tadao is concrete, as you just say, concrete or glass and steel. But what is very curious is that when you come to Japan and you go to like especially the cultural center, everything is made in wood. So I'm curious, what's your opinion on why Tadao Ando moved to the concrete, and also what is your relationship with wood, with this material in particular?
When he started his office, it's almost 60 to 90s. So every housing is made by wood. So the concrete house is very rare at that time. But now our city is made by concrete, and every city is made by industrial material. So, but now I think the the balance of the material is important. So, well, in 60 or 90s, 60 or 70s, the wooden city has a concrete building is important. But now, the only concrete is not rare. So I wanted to make more complex balance between the city and architecture.
Okay.
So I'm using a lot of material, not only concrete and not only wood. I'm choosing almost every material.
What do you think is so special about wood? What's like why there's such an interest for woods, like for the temples, for many structures? Why wood? I think many people ask this question.
Wood is a very primitive material, and also the Japan has a lot of wooden resources from mountain, and we can use it easily. So, in a meaning, I really love wood material as a furniture and a lot of things. So, wood, I don't decide only wood is okay or not concrete. There's a function of concrete has a good merit and demerit, and wood has a merit and demerit. So I can connect.
Okay, so
in
combine.
each case.
Combine. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wood is a very sustainable material. Wood is carbon fiber, so it can last for 1,000 years. So it has a very possibility to make more sustainable space and architecture.
And I want to make it. I mean, I'm going to use that to mention that painting now. If you compare, because I'm from Paris, so in Paris, all these stone buildings, very heavy, very fixed. So when you come to Japan, and I've also heard that many temples were rebuilt, over knowledge, all of that for problems, but symbolically, using stone as something very established, very fixed, and wood as something that could burn, something still it can last, but they say it could burn very easily as well. There's this paradox. So here, I want to mention that painting. I want to ask your opinion on that. So this painter, which is a contemporary Japanese painter called Shigeru Nishikawa, he went through civil engineering and then noticed that actually building things were not really respectful in the environment and it was hurting nature somehow. So it ended up starting studying and doing paintings. And there's one expression which I think is quite interesting, and it links with Buddhism as well, is mujo, impermanence. He says that the urban landscape is always changing. You also said yourself, everything's changing so fast. So that's why the top part is completely blurred, completely abstract. And somehow this mujo, this impermanence, I think is very well expressed through the use of wood, but less through the use of stone. So do you have any even concrete as well? It's kind of concrete seems something almost atemporal, no time with concrete. Even though it's aging, it seems like it's always the same. So what's your
as a materiality, I really love stone. So it has a very eternal feeling, and I really love it. And of course, there's some stone or foundation of castle in Japan, but basically Japan has an earthquake, and Japan is a very dangerous land and dangerous island. I think there's a big earthquake, and also tsunami and a typhoon and a lot of humidity by sea. So as an environment, Japan is the worst country in the world to build buildings. So I think it's very difficult to make a eternal building. So especially we have a big earthquake. So every building is collapsed in every 100 years. So that is the mutual feeling is derived from that physical environment of Japan.
Which makes things impermanent. Like,
yes, we cannot keep things eternal.
So you're embracing this impermanence somehow.
Yes.
Okay.
So that is, it's not philosophical things. It's
just reality.
Very
like,
reality.
You have the nature. Like okay.
Architecture needs a reality. It's not concept.
Why did you choose to, especially when you practice with contemporary art, contemporary architecture, and why did you choose to establish yourself in Kyoto?
Tokyo is a little bit too commercial.
Okay.
And sometimes I cannot work. I cannot be as a producing something important. I can get a lot of interesting information, and I never bored about that things. But when I going back to home, I did nothing at that day.
And you just like
yes,
accumulate a lot, but nothing.
Yeah, a lot of too much information and too much people and too much good things. But I wanted
too much good things.
Too much.
That's
good
very
things.
interesting.
Yeah, too much good things. So it's better to do nothing. Just watching is most interesting.
Okay, you mean like there's already a lot of good thing in Tokyo. It's also a lot of
Yes.
information. So you were somehow like, what can I do here? And it's too many things are like entering your head, and you're not able to like digest maybe the information.
So I felt like losing myself
in Tokyo. Okay.
So I decided to move to Osaka and work with Tadao Ando's office. Everyone from all over the world come to Kyoto directly.
Okay.
So I think Kyoto is more, in a meaning, international than Tokyo.
And do you think, I'm curious, because as you said, there's too much information, too much beautiful things and good things in Tokyo. Do you feel like there's also like a difference of quality between, and taste between Kyoto and Tokyo?
There's a lot of good things and bad things in each city. For example, business, Tokyo is good. Kyoto is not so big business. And also, but in for example, traditional things, for example, temple and shrine and crafts and the way of the people's life, Kyoto is very unique things. And Tokyo is like a contemporary city, like
New York, like big
Paris.
Okay.
So now I'm lived in Kyoto, but I'm going to Tokyo in almost every month and almost every week.
Okay.
So I don't feel living only in Kyoto, just moving.
Okay, always
finding good things from in Japan.
We're going a little bit further into your project, because we haven't like really go through the project, but when I looked at your website and all the pictures, and I found like two very different kind of approach. Like this one, which is, as we talked earlier, like traditional and contemporary in dialogue, and the other side, which is completely contemporary. Like, for example, traditional contemporary, there's the residence Jo Nushiya and the residence Jo Mibu Bamba, and we'll show pictures as well. And in contemporary, I found, for example, the Node Hotel, which is in Kyoto actually, and inside you have all this. I mean, you can talk about this later. And also, this one that I was very surprised was the Villa Karuizawa. That is a very massive project.
Yeah,
it was very, very big, like all concrete, and like the shapes is complete. I mean, I would just want to ask about like how do you deal with this? Because, for example, you're not working on only one project at a time. You probably have many projects at a time, like an artist with his canvases.
Yes.
So how do you like maybe your mindset when, because there's one thing that I'm extremely curious, and it's also related to contemporary art. When we talk about contemporary, somehow, do you feel like you're more free? You have more freedom in your expression. You're not like relying on maybe an old structure, or you don't have like all the constraint of like renovating an old space into something more contemporary.
Yeah.
So do you feel like contemporary architecture is somehow more like more space for your self-expression? I'm really curious about that.
I think the importance is the balance of contemporariness and so the tradition or nature. For example, the project in Kabizawa, there's a lot of nature from outside.
Yeah.
So it's not. We don't need traditional things at that project. And also, architecture is not art.
I want to ask, you said that you have a few projects abroad. Could you say a little bit more about that part? And also, what I'm very, very intrigued by is the difference of dealing with like a project in Japan and dealing with a project abroad. Is your like thinking process completely different? Is there like, what's the difference in these two?
Yeah, basically, architecture needs one thing is a client, and also there's a context.
Yeah.
For example, in Tokyo, there's less craftsmen and there's less traditional things. So, but I don't think, for example, when I doing a project in Tokyo, I don't bring Kyoto's rule to Tokyo.
That is very important what you're saying. So basically, each project, you will look at what's there, local like craftsmen, local construction company. So if you have a project abroad, you will not forcibly bring Japanese culture and all of the Japanese crafts abroad. You will try to look at what's there already.
Yes,
that's very important.
Sometimes we can, but I don't think it's not necessary. I think architecture is in one aspect is building and very physical things, but the other thing is architecture is more abstract system. So when I making planning like this, there's no material here, and there's only rules and also the people moving like this or something.
So it's quite abstract.
Yeah, very abstract. So I can work as a both role as a more very abstract architect and also very physical architect. Physical things is very based on the local context, I think.
I want to go through another aspect maybe of architecture, and when you talk about Tadao Ando, I think it's like showed a lot the human aspect, like meeting people, talking to people. How do you feel about that aspect of your work? Like for example, you said Tadao Ando is able to meet politician and economy and artist and designer. How do you deal with that?
Architecture is just a box, so we can design the box, but we cannot design the human being inside itself. I should know the human activity. But that is why I'm talking to a lot of people in other fields.
Last time we talked about Ando Tadao, you were saying that he like talks about with many people, like interaction. Yeah. So somehow this reminds me of like a spider network. Like you have the maybe the center and then some like articulation. Yes. Do you feel like in your way of interacting with people, you have similarities with the way you build buildings?
So architecture is not so flexible. Architecture cannot change. So, but life should know the flexibility of the spider network, but I should decide what is unchangeable things. In a narrow meaning of architecture is structure. And the changeable things is a kind of a expression of human activity.
Okay.
So
that's very
that
interesting.
is the architects cannot design.
And because you say that, I want to mention, so I mean, this book, I mean, I think it's fantastic. I haven't finished it, but in this book, there is something that I was fascinated with, and I want to talk to you about that. So he talks about the evolution of like ancient Japanese architecture, the way that the space was partitioned in many like boundary spaces and then different activities in different areas. And then he mentioned now what happened is that we have like some kind of spaces which gather many other spaces together, many functional. For example, he mentioned the living room, like a space which like gathers so many activities at the same time. So kind of confusing kind of a function, like so many things happening here. And he said that what's fascinating for me is that you see the influence of how you organize space on how people behave. Like when I learn about the boundary space, about not going directly inside, like having different steps and ways of entering spaces, then you understand maybe a little bit more about how people are actually in the real life. Like especially I'm talking about Japanese people because this is a Japanese house.
Yes.
So what do you think about like the evolution of that?
Yes, comparing between Western architecture and Japanese architecture, I think Japanese architecture is very flexible, and that every wall is not wall. Sometimes it's just a partition, and people can hear the voice in the next room, but we cut the sound and the noise and voice or secret talk from the next room. So our mindset will be was changed by the structure of Japanese architecture, I think.
I want to mention I have two quotes from two very important people. Like the first one, maybe you know him, is Gaston Bachelard. Is a French philosopher. I have his book here. I mean, I don't know if you can see the book here. It's about the poetics of space. I mean, you can. This is the book I'm going to mention. And so the quotes I want to talk about is from his chapter House and Universe. So I will read it now. Sometimes the house grows and spreads so that in order to live in it, greater elasticity of daydreaming, a daydream that is less clearly outlined, are needed. My house, writes George Spiridaki, is diaphanous, but it is not of glass. It is more of the nature of vapor. Its walls contract and expand as I desire. At times, I draw them close about me like protective armor. But others, I let the walls of my house blossom out in their own space, which is infinitely extensible. Spiridaki houses breathes. First, it is a coat of armor, then it extends as infinitum, which amounts to saying that we live in alternate security and adventure. It is both cell and word. This is like this last sentence, I think is very interesting. It is both cell, like a cell, and at the same time, word. I think this is so connected to one thing in particular in Japan. I mentioned two things that I want to share with you. Is first of all, the awareness. This is what I noticed being here. The awareness of Japanese people of being a part of of a wider kind of a body. Like Japanese people, that's what I'm noticing. Like they know that they are like parts of something bigger, kind of like a cell of a big body. And this is, to me, directly related with something else, just metabolism architecture. For example, there's the Nagakin Capsule Tower, which was recently dismantled, or the Shizuoka Press and Broadcasting Center by Kengo Tange. Like you have like this kind of connection with nature, like how nature is expanding, how nature is evolving through cells. So what do you think about what I just said, and what's your opinion?
That is, I think, very controversial of the architecture is like a code music. We said in the last time. The surface of the cell can communicate and getting other things inside and growing. So that kind of idea is very similar to metabolism.
That's why I wanted to do the connection. And you just said that when I think of shoji of the paper, and when you think of the surface of a cell, which is also very very thin, that's why I found like there's a connection with what even though he's French, as you said, he evolved in another kind of environment. But this sentence, it is both cell and word. without talking about architecture, I can just go back to also Japanese people. From what I know, from the friend I have around who are Japanese, I'm really noticing that they're aware of being part of something bigger, of kind of a body.
So you mentioned the Japanese people's mindset.
Yes, yes, yes.
Similar like this.
I think there is something very connected. I mean, what do you think?
Yes, sometimes I feel that thing is, for example, the Western country like French or the US and the European culture. Usually, they have a very strong opinion to anything. Yes, but for but the Japanese people don't have a strong opinion to anything. Sometimes, I think, but Japanese people is very flexible and very, very flexible and easy to harmonize with the circumstance.
But I'm still very curious. How do you, like you said that Japanese people most of the time don't have any strong opinion things. How do you feel when you meet, for example, foreigner? For example, right now when I talk to you, what's your feeling? Is it hard for you to exchange with foreigners people? How do you deal with that?
I think in Europe or in the US or maybe I don't know exactly, but in China or there's a lot of huge diversity of race and language and other things. So so they have to say the identity of himself to connect and talking to other people. But in Japan, of course, there's a lot of foreign people and a lot of little diversity of the language. But basically, we can communicate in one language, and our religious is basically one, and we don't fight about the language and also the religion and sometimes politically.
So a very monolithic and homogeneous people.
Yeah, very homogeneous the circumstance, I think. Why Japanese people is so homogeneous? I think the biggest reason is the circumstance and environment of Japan island. There's a lot of natural disaster, like a big earthquake and tsunami and typhoon. So it is very hard to live by myself. We should cooperate to survive.
Okay. So kind of a network, and everyone needs
power
to.
of nature. So we admire, and sometimes we are very afraid of the nature, and we are communicating to the nature in every time.
So do you think we could say that Japan, like the country, Japan, the island, is like a body?
Body?
A body, like a body, and inside every person, every tree, every element is like a small cell.
Yeah. It's like a kind of a plant or something.
Yeah, a plant. Okay.
And our for Japanese people don't think he's just one personality.
Individual out of the. Okay.
Kind of a part of environment.
You also think this way?
Yeah, I think yes. And I'm feeling that I'm for myself. I'm kind of in an average of my network, I think.
What do you mean average of your network? That's interesting.
Maybe I am it's a little bit difficult to say in English, but I think I don't have a strong identity. I didn't decide my identity. So my identity is moving and changing in my life.
Okay.
And my identity is changing to communicate a lot of people around me. So I myself is a kind of a not. There's a lot of human being
entities
is like this, like every human character and every person, and I think my identity is, for example, like here.
So a bit of everyone, like you have a bit of everyone in yourself. Okay.
I'm communicating with this person, and there's a very strong
like a sun kind of structure.
Yes.
Radical structure.
Yeah,
Okay.
very close people. So this is my buffer.
Okay.
And also it is very vague.
And you also move.
Yes. And also move, and also it's connected very, very weak and a fragile network.
And I'm curious, I mean, there's two things I would say. First thing is what you just said, I didn't decide my identity. This reminds me of Taoism, actually, of Chinese Taoism. Taoism. Which like you have this flow of energy and you don't really choose where you're going, but you're in this like circle and it keeps going. But one thing you can do is choose from where you're looking at it, like the point of view. And the second thing I want to ask, you say that you like this, but do you want to meet people? My question is, do you want to, will you actually by yourself reach out to people you don't know? I'm curious about that. Will you do this work or not really?
I'm basically interesting to other people, and also the people that I didn't met before, and because that kind of people is, for example, very curious people. My vector is going to this, so my identity is changing to this way.
Like attracted to this, like okay. Yes, you have a vector that brings you to these people.
Yes.
My
image of my identity.
It's very interesting. I mean, I feel very similar to what you're saying. And this, again, I'm going to mention a Chinese expression here. It's called law of attractivity, 吸引力法则. It basically means like people of same interest will like attract each other. You have like a curiosity which will attract people, same energy. It's very interesting. I really like this drawing. I really like this. Okay.
Drew this first time.
This is very interesting. Very interesting. And because you drew that, I want to mention someone else. And this time it's him. Unfortunately, it's in French, so you won't understand. But it's Italian contemporary philosopher. He's like in his 50s. And this book is called The Philosophy of the House. It's a fantastic, it's probably one of the best books I've read this year. Yes. And here I'm going to share with you a quote from his book. He said, "A house is a psychic sculpture, a way of specializing our soul or gesturing our body. Its translation into gesture, habits, and feelings. Each of these elements is a machine that influences our soul much more than our body, because it educates our feelings, our emotions, and our imagination according to a precise order to which we barely pretend to pay attention." So quickly what he's saying there, again, it's going back to what was saying Nakagawa Takeshi, that the way we specialize, we design the space, is a direct expression of our soul. It's basically what he's saying. So even though right now we don't really pay attention to it, for example, in his book, at some part, he said that it's been like hundreds of years. We live in exact same kind of organizing the space, bathroom, bedroom, kitchen, but nothing has really changed. Nothing has really changed in how we organize space.
The reason that I drew this drawing and why I think myself like this, before feeling like myself like this, I had a lot of influence by my father, and he's like Mishima Yukio, and in 1960s, the people should build by yourself and should have a strong identity, like Western people, Western culture. So Japanese people, if after major, Japanese people have to be like Western people, and Mishima Yukio is his one aspect. He wanted to be like a Greek Marceau character, and she wanted to be very masculine character. And my father was very influenced by him and his thoughts.
So you as well.
So when I was in high school, I should be strong. I should be very masculine. I should build my very strong identity. Yes, of course. Mishima has a lot of a character by himself, and he's very complex character. I think right now. But when I was in high school, I thought Mishima is kind of like a symbol of very strong identity or strong, how to say, interpretation of the Western culture. I thought at that time, and I had a lot of I read a lot of books, and I'm wondering why I should build a strong identity. But when I enter university and I listened a lot of lecture in the university, I met one book of a philosopher, Phenomenology.
Phenomenology. Okay.
I read a book about phenomenology, and I might misunderstand at the time, but I thought identity is doesn't exist itself, and identity is kind of a maybe at the time it's a kind of a center or average of
all the things around
all the identity. So I thought by myself, and I can be like that. I shouldn't build the strong identity, I thought at that time.
There's a very famous French photographer, Robert Doisneau, who said to suggest is to create, and to describe it is to destroy. In Japan, I remember when you go to a temple, you will not arrive directly to the temple. You have like a long way to arrive slowly and like maybe immerse into a kind of natural vibe. You have many trees, many plants, and then you will get into a certain mindset. And then when you arrive, then you can start doing your praying or do whatever you want to do at that place. So there's a very subtle way of bringing things.
Very interesting sentence, and because for Japanese, some kind of a god or some, how do I say, the creator or kami-sama shouldn't be described, because this is like this, and in shrine, there's no strong sculpture inside. There's nothing, just space. It's kami. For Japanese people, if he is too open, he gonna be destroyed. You know the Japanese, when the first time the Japanese samurai meet the camera, they never wanted to be photographed because they thought their mind is
Stolen.
Yeah, stolen from the camera.
Okay, imagine that I'm asking you to describe yourself, like who you are, your person, as a building. If you were a building, what kind of building would you be?
Maybe just a frame.
A frame?
Yeah, just a frame.
What do you mean?
Only structure.
Yeah.
And I can be changed to to the housing, to the church, the temple, and to hospital, and or to skyscraper.
What do you think is art?
Art. Yeah. Art itself. Art is expression of human being. So, in a narrow meaning, art is painting and sculpture and installation. There's lot of genre, right? But don't feel contemporary art industry is based on that genre and that kind of that specific expression. But I don't feel art itself has a wider meaning, I think. So the art is a kind of a good good quality, the outcome of good quality human activity, I think.
Do you feel like an artist?
In a narrow meaning, I'm not artist, I'm architect. So, but in a wider meaning, I should be artist in that meaning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you be a little bit more specific on the wider meaning?
Wider meaning is, for example, chef, restaurant chef can be artist in a meaning if he create things that help human society and expanding his field. Is I think he has a value. I don't feel art is in a meaning the very top things, but the genre is not only sculpture and painting. I think.
And because you talk about the genre and the categories of art,
Category.
here I want to talk about one thing. When I was studying and I was in school, I had this project where I was studying the ceramics in Asia and ceramics in Western world.
Yeah.
And so through this project, I had to go back to the roots of the meaning of art, because in Asia, the ceramics are much more like highly prized than in Europe. We're using it for other ends. But so at that time, I went back. I just took the word art in French, so art, and in Chinese, because I was interested in Chinese ceramics, Chinese porcelain, which is 艺术. You also have this word in Japanese. How do you say art in Japanese? Geijutsu. When I went back to the origin of this word in these two different regions, in Europe it go back to ancient Greek, where you have the categories of the art, and then in Middle Age you have the liberal arts. But there was like a kind of hierarchy of how we were ordering the art, and some of them were highly prized. For example, poetry, paintings were always like at the top, which explains why now we have so much interest into these forms of art. But in Asia, at least China, what I've studied, 艺术, the word, is including so many things. Not only the art as we know as fine art. There's astronomy, there's math, there's medicine. It's like a concept which is so wide. And so when you arrive in Asia, before like the openings of, for example, Japan to the Western, all the things that you found, like for example, on a table or in a house, all have their own value. Like they're part of something. Again, when you say it's both sound and word, there's part of something wider. And so even like a teacup or, I don't know, like a painting or a wall, everything has its own like intrinsic value, which is not higher or lower than the other.
Yes.
So what do you think about this kind of ranking and hierarchy?
So traditionally, Japan has a same culture as China. So I think the art that I said wider meaning is similar to Chinese 夜市, and narrow meaning is art is like art, the Western art definition. So, but for me, I'm really influenced by Japanese culture. So I don't feel the only narrow meaning art category is the top. There's a lot of good quality things.
So,
I think this is connected to it's not Tao, but Do.
Oh, Dao. Okay, Daoism.
Dao. Dao is, I don't know exactly the same as Japanese Tao, but Do is literally just a way. But this is very linear and going to the top. And for example, we have a lot of, for example, the Sado,
Chada.
Chadao, and
Tea ceremony.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Tado is the ikebana?
yes, ikebana. Yes, and also sometimes judo is
And the martial art.
yeah, martial arts. Yes, so every category gonna be Tao.
Inside the Dao.
Yeah,
Okay.
inside the Do.
We just like talk about art, and then you mention like quality and then concept, and then many like things that need to cohere to have something that's supreme, that tends to converge to the supreme of the Do. But when you say that, I suddenly had this idea of like, I mean, it made me think of crafts. And so what's the, I mean, it's confusing for me like to find like this difference, or what's the two difference between like art and craft.
For Japanese, art is like a craft. So good art, good painting is how the artist draw the things like a picture, like a photograph.
So maybe now I want to go into a wider scope, a wider scale, and talk about art exhibition in Japan. Especially contemporary exhibition. Let's talk about contemporary exhibition in Japan. So I've been like last month to Tokyo, to Mori Art Museum, to the MOT, to the Azabudai Gallery. I mean, to a few contemporary related art places. And there's something that I was very surprised. I don't know if it's kind of a Japanese approach to contemporary art, but I noticed a few things in the curation, which I could resume in a few words, is energy, transformation, and transition. Like these three things in all the exhibition I've seen is always there. Transition, transformation, reaction, energy, some kind of like invisible thing or some kind of shifting or changes, which is indirectly translated in the way they present things. There was this, for example, there was the exhibition of Olafur Eliasson. Apparently, it seems like people, Japanese people really like his work. And in Azabudai Gallery, there was this completely dark room with like the water, like kind of artworks. And like there was light on. And this is kind of like always of a transient moment. What is for you an interesting exhibition?
Interesting.
Yeah, what makes an exhibition interesting for you?
Interesting exhibition is there's things to learn, and there's a new approach of thinking. Is in that case, I feel it's interesting, and also the other things is has a huge impact on my body.
On your body, what do you mean?
On my physically and conceptually has a.
So like
for example, when I went to the Venezia in the last year, 2022, there's a exhibition by Anish Kapoor.
Oh yeah, okay.
Anish Kapoor.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you feel, because I mean, you're mentioning like he's like very big scale artworks, the red part, and so you somehow, do you feel like this big size is like recentering you to like your human condition? Like it's so big that you're questioning your position of who you are in that kind of space?
That kind of a bigness is very important to artworks.
Big scale, okay.
Big scale.
Okay.
It's gonna be like a architecture and a building. Building is very big, so building affects us directly. And usually, my Japanese, and also to me, it is difficult to understand the concept in deeply because our Japan is different from Western context. So, for example, the Olafur Eliasson sometimes calling for the global heating and a lot of environmental issues. But 90% of people to see the exhibition doesn't feel anything.
Just the experience, maybe
just
the experience space.
Just the experience. But I don't think it's bad because some people cannot feel anything from his work, but some of people can feel that kind of issues and the concept from his work. But the important is the artworks has a power to influence the people directly.
Have you, until now, for a project, you were looking for some kind of inspiration, ask an AI to like...
sometimes did that and asking the
how was it?
But it's in the imagination, not so creative right now. And also the direction is very important. So still now it's like a very too young. the AI.
To conclude, one last question. Again, Byung-Chul Han. I'm going to quote one of his sentences from Saving Beauty, so this book which is called Saving Beauty. He said, "Today we are faced with a crisis of beauty insofar as the beautiful is smoothed out into objects of pleasure, of the like, into something arbitrary and comfortable. The saving of beauty is the saving of that which commits us." What do you think of that sentence?
I think the beauty is very I don't know exactly the last time I saw Shin Sen B. This is an aristocratic. It's a correctness. I don't know exactly how I describe it in English. This is kind of a ethic. Ethic and beauty. So his crisis of beauty is describe this situation of now it's 21st century. Little by little, the big kind of big company and the government seeing to the goodness or sustainable things and something. I know sometimes it's beauty, but the beauty is a little bit difficult to define. So it's not included by right things. So our society is the rightness and technology is going to growing up every year, but sometimes the ethic is right now is take caring, but the beauty is not
Considered.
Considerate, right?
Like it's technology centered and
Yes.
maybe ethics centered, but the beauty. I mean, the most important one is this one apparently. So the technology.
This is easy. The right or good, right or not right is apparently everyone knows by our logic. And my ethic is very difficult and different from each
Culture.
Each culture, yes, it's a little bit difficult, but there is, and but the beauty is really different. And sometimes there are things beautiful, but it's not right, but it's not good. But I think it is important to think in three aspects.
Not only one.
Not only
so
one.
a balance of three
Yes,
things.
Balance is important, I think.
So this crisis of beauty is caused by an imbalance of these three things.
Yes.
Like one is too strong to
Yes.
okay. So and when you say 21st century,
Yeah.
the correctness, right, is too strong. This one is
Yes,
too heavy.
Better than 20th century. 20th century is like a rational, very rational. And in architecture field, the modernism is very strong and invaded every history and each culture of region. But right now, it's now considered by of the bad aspect of rationalism. So now we are talking about more ethic and the other aspect. But beauty is still not connected to that kind of goal.
And do you think it's important to save beauty?
Yes, it's beauty. Yes, beauty is. So I think these three balance of these three is very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. That was the last question.
Yeah. Thank you.
That was Seiichiro Takeuchi. I hope you enjoyed that episode. We explored Croatian architecture, Japan, many topics, and I hope to see you for the next episodes. Bye.